foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Tonight we're going to talk about the cause of all forms of addiction. Drug addiction, alcohol addiction, smoking, I suppose even eating. There's not a lick of difference between any of them. They all have the same cause. The media will never talk to you about cause. The experts will never talk to you about cause. They're in the sickness business. The sicker you get, the better it is for them, the richer they are. Don't expect anyone to cure you. All the money that's thrown at various support groups and therapy groups, schick-schädel, schick-schmädel, whatever it is they have, there's always something new to treat you for $10,000 or $15,000 for 10 days or 2 weeks. It doesn't work. I want to just tell you something very simple. There's only a small percentage of people you can help in the world, and they were helpable from the very beginning, and there's no chance for the rest of you. There's about 1% of all the people in the world you can help, and that's about the percentage of people who are searching. And these people are gifted, and they're gifted from the day they're born. And they can have alcohol problems and drug problems like everybody else, but you can cure them in minutes without any withdrawal symptoms. And the rest of them, forget it. You have to, the rest of them you can sort of give them drugs to save them from drugs. You know the program. What kind of future is there in that? What kind of person am I talking about? And I hope that kind of person's here. What kind of blessed person am I referring to? And how do we find them? I hope that we find them by listening to this blessed person over here. Because I've known the truth from the very beginning, since I was a little boy. And when I remember one time looking out of my bedroom window, it was in London, and I see people coming out of the fog and going into the fog. I was 5 years old, and it was a frightening thing. And I thought to myself, is this the way my life is going to be? Am I going to die, diseased, degraded, decadent, confused like that? Just a shadow moving through space and gone? I was seized with a feeling to commit suicide at that moment. I remember just a moment, and it passed, because my common sense took over, because I knew that wasn't going to be my future. Most people live like Neanderthals in a much low level of consciousness, in the basement of their head, escaping reality. Their whole life is denial, escape, some kind of ego trip. And maybe you guys are on the same, also seeking denial, but denial is not your thing. See, deep down inside, you have conflict when you have denial. The more you deny, the more problem you have. The more problem you have, the more you deny. But your destiny isn't down the bottom of the pit, where all the ultimate deniers end up. Your destiny is different. Something is following you all the way down through your denying, through your drugs, through all of your suffering. You have a conscience. You have a light. And therefore, if I can awaken you to this light, if I can show you what emotions and what reactions, what it is about you that makes you like everybody else, yet not like everybody else. See? You drink, you smoke, you carouse, you sex. You do everything, you have the same problems, except you're curable. And you're very easily curable, because all you've ever wanted was to hear the truth. The truth without hypocrisy, if you know what I mean. The truth with love. All you needed was a father to represent, an earthly father to represent the spiritual one, the heavenly one, to confirm what you've always known in your heart. Now, some of you are born into environments which are less than respectable, to say the least. Alcoholic parents, feuding, fighting, jealous brothers and sisters that degrade you and molest you and harm you in every conceivable way, mentally, emotionally, and physical. And they particularly pick on you, even at school. If you had a little brightness in you, you stood out like a sore thumb. You were like an alien from another planet. You were the ugly duckling, but really you're the beautiful swan. See? Except because you're in their world. You're born into their circumstances. You're born into the low-life, scumbag world of their reality, the mess, the filth, the slime that they all live in. And because you are bright, and because you are from a different dimension, you threaten them. You threaten them to waken them. So what they did, they tried to put your lights out. They tried to confuse you. They all turned on you and ganged up on you. Some of you got better already just by hearing that. See, because they made you think like there's really something wrong with you, like you don't belong here. And in a sense, maybe you don't. But we do belong here. It's our world. The low class, low life, if you'll pardon the expression, Neanderthal scumbag variety of people proliferate. And they produce each other in a prolific way. I mean, they're multiplying by the billions and billions. There's more of them than there is of us. So you think, well, maybe there's something wrong with me because, look, everybody seems happy. They're drinking, smoking, drugging, partying. Maybe I ought to join them. And maybe you have come down to the level to get their acceptance, to be one of them. And then you couldn't get back. See, now, I wonder if anybody understood what I just said. Can I see a show of hands if you understood me? Are you one of those people? Yes, I thought you would be. You see, because I asked for an audience here, and look how many we got, 50? There's 50 million of them out there. I can only drag you in here this evening. Now, I'm going to talk to you, now that I've got the right people to talk to. I want to say the right things to you people, and these things that I'm going to tell you, they're for your ears only, and nobody else can understand anything I'm saying. To them, it's just like gobbledygook. It could be Chinese as far as they're concerned. They'll say, "Roy Masters is crazy. This guy's nuts." And yet you won't be able to hear anything nutty about it at all. It's for your ears only. Now let me just start it out this way. I was sitting in a Chinese restaurant with the lady that works here, and she said, "I remember how I started to smoke. I remember when I was 12 years old, my mother went, 'And don't you ever let me catch you smoking cigarettes.' And she went right out and smoked a cigarette. See? Rebellion. Then it could be something like, you'll grow up to be a bum, an alcoholic bum, just like your father. You're no damn good. And out you go. And it's either the warning to stop you that makes you do it, or the foreboding suggestion, projecting for you a future, a negative suggestion. You're going to be a bum, you're no damn good, just like your father. Both of those work. And why does it work? If you'd like to stop me at any point, you can, but I know I'm getting into something juicy right here. I know it's hard to interrupt me when I'm making these points, but I'm going to make some very good ones, and if you feel like you want to join in, please do, okay? But meanwhile, if you don't, I can carry this all by myself, okay? Now, there is one emotion, and it's not really an emotion, that causes your dilemma. The Madison Avenue gang, they know how to create need. They know how to sell, through creating need, all their products. They know how to corrupt you and violate you and motivate you and use your fears and guilt against you. And they know how to set you up for that, make you a consumer of a society that is being consumed. But there is no antidote. Once you've been corrupted to need anything, it becomes an addiction, whether it's clothes, whether it's music, whether it's sex, whether it's food. Once you've been corrupted by anything, the fears and the guilts multiply, and so does your need for answers multiply. And they're already there with their answers, with their patent medicines and songs and religions. And see? And of course, every time you partake of these answers, you, because you're different, children of light, feel conflict, added conflict. No, that's not it. No, that's not it. It reminds me of the story. I don't know if you've ever told this story before. I have on the radio, but for what it's worth right now. It's about the man working his ticket. In England, when you want to get out of the army, we call it working your ticket. And he was picking up pieces of paper from the ground saying, that's not it, that's not it, that's not it. And so they send him to the psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist examines him, and he gives him his walking papers. He says, that's it. See? He knew what it was he was looking for, right? And in a sense, you kind of know what you're looking for. You go around picking up religions and friends and experimenting with this, and that's not it. Because there's something in you that's not compatible. That's not your destiny to be caught up with something permanently. See? In other words, you're not compatible with it. With all the people on their way to death and dying and to destruction, and many go that way, they are compatible with it. You're not. And that's why you're indestructible. All you have to do here is you don't need a cure. All you need is someone say, hey, this is what you're looking for, and this is what I'm going to talk to you about tonight. And we're going to do that in 2 parts. We're going to do a half an hour this evening, and I've already blown about 10 or 15 minutes. But never mind. This is audience participation, but just it takes a little while for me to warm up, as you know. I know that you even haven't got to the point where you can ask the question yet, because I'm just informing you. I'm pouring these ideas into your ear. But I'm sure the cameras will get audience interest shots, even if we don't get questions. You can see all these faces going, that's it. That's right. And now the audience, the viewers are also, there's a lot of them out there that are saying, just a minute, he's beginning to say something. They're leaning forward to listen. Now, here it is. It is all very simple. It's one emotion. It's not really an emotion. It's called resentment. Now, you've heard me talk about it on my radio program, but when you were a little child, you didn't understand the power of this feeling. But this feeling, you know, it's like I slap you on the hand, and you feel pain. And that's just pain you feel. It hurts. So, but if I did that with a meanness, you know, get out of my way, see? And that didn't hurt you much. Maybe it didn't hurt you at all. Right next to that feeling of pain is another feeling. And it's called resentment. And resentment is just a little flash. Just a little, like a little lightning flash. That's it. And it creates a judgment, hatred. And most of the time you can't express that. What it does, it makes you sin. Forgive the expression. Because that resentment is the seed of pride and hatred. It puts the nature, because you react to that, you become a victim. That reaction, unbeknownst to you, and the purpose of the cruelty, the whole purpose of injustice, you'll say, well, that's not fair. My mom's not fair. My dad's not fair. They're cruel. And God's not fair. Forgiving me, moms and dads like this. But the whole purpose of whatever it is your mom and dad did, because it is your mom and dad that did you in, let's be honest. It wasn't the grocer. Because they had you the most and the longest. And what was coming through them of course their parents did them in, and the spirit of that is in your parents. And it controls them. It's not your mom and dad in there anymore. Or there may be some left, and you might be able to save them if you're able to face them with what they're doing, confront. But you can't confront anymore. You can confront God, because you've been separated from God by that resentment. That's the sin. It's the sin of pride. Love, hate. See, love, hate. First comes the hate, usually. For you, your fall, you fell in hate. You fell in judgment. You fell in resentment. And the spirit of your mother or father purposely did that to you. See, they knew what they were doing. They were intolerant with your innocence. They said, with their usual rudeness and meanness. They confounded you and confused you. They said black was white and green was pink, and don't you argue with your elders, sort of thing. You know the kind of horror things that go on, the kind of horrible confusion you have to tolerate. And these people that are your mothers and fathers are not human. They're pod people. And they're either pod people all the way through, or they are like you, pod people. You haven't completely changed yet. And if you could find the way to stop being a changeling and become back a human being again, maybe you can face your mother and father and help them too get out of their pod self, their role of destroying you and self-destructing. So, are we following so far? Yes.
Is it necessary to have to be with your parents to deal with them, or can you be away from them and have realization?
Let's say your mother and father are dead. What would you do? There's nothing you can do with your mother and father, but you have the memory of what they've done to you. Haven't you noticed that every time you are frustrated and something goes wrong in your life, you get angry, and little flashes of, little energies of resentment make you flash back to your past, and you tend to resent and blame your parents?
Yeah, I see my mom made me, everything that I always talked about wasn't important, even to this day.
Even if it was important, maybe it was meaningful.
Yeah, and so now when I try to talk to people, I feel unimportant.
Right, that's exactly. There's the spirit of your mother and father in everybody. There is your mother in every mother out there, if you pardon the expression, if you know, with all respects, or not too much respect. So therefore, you're just going to have to realize that your mother has been destroyed by her mother and father. She can't help herself. And you must remember that's the reason why we have the commandments, to keep us contained, to guide us back to reality. The sins of the fathers are projected into the third and fourth generation of those that hate me, but showing mercy to the thousands that love me and keep my commandments, sort of thing. That's a very important thing. One of the most important things is that you must not hate your mother and father. But mothers and fathers are all there are, and there was always a first mother or father. The first mother, the first woman, appealing to Adam, the first man, and him failing, and her hating him. And that becomes the hatred of all men. And so that the mothers tend to turn their frustrations of their husband against their husbands towards their male children, and pass the proclivity of Eve, the hatred of all men, onto their daughters. So they grow up hating their fathers and projecting that hate towards their husbands, but pretending to love them, because that relationship of being Eve, supporting his ego, which makes him fail, is the only relationship men want. They need their ego stroked. So therefore, the mother and father or male-female relationship is the first addiction, the first failing, and the first hate for the woman, and the first guilt for the man, and because men fall in love, but women fall in hate. And the women feel guilty for hating their husbands, and they try to make up for it with a very dark kind of love. Very often the husband has learned some secret in order to cause a woman. That's why he's so irresponsible, because he knows if he's irresponsible, he can upset his wife. And when she's upset, she feels guilty, and out of the guilt comes this strange love. So she runs after him trying to save him. because she feels guilty, like responsible. So that the more she loves him, the more he falls to that love. And the more she hates and falls to that hate. And then turns the venom on the children. See? There's a wrong spirit that rules the roost. The spirit of light is gone in the father. The spirit of darkness creeps up through the mother. It's not her fault. It's really, you know, I'm not going to say whose fault it is. It's, you know, it's men are wrong and women are wrong, but I'm just giving you the order that you come into is the dark order. If I may say, a satanic order. This is what we see on this earth. The drug addiction, the crime, the horror, the rape, the violence. This has nothing to do with chemical imbalances in your cerebral cortex, or whatever nonsense words they use. This is nothing to do with that at all. It has nothing to do with psychology. It has to do with corruption, being violated, being projected into. And you're a child. You come in the world, that little light in you is very, very threatening. See? And to that darkness in your parents. And that's the reason why they're so cruel. They can't help being cruel. Because they're under a wrong system. And they have to turn you into a pod person too, by being cruel to you and failing you. Fathers fail their children. Mothers bitch at their children. And unconsciously they can't help it. They have to eat out the substance of because there's no happiness in her. She eats the substance out of her kids and puts into the children this dark nature, this confusion, this conflict, this compulsion. You gentlemen have the compulsion. Once you've been corrupted, been violated, you become a changeling, made over in the image of your mother, not in the spirit of your father, because he died. He's a non-influence in your life. You have the wrong spirit influencing you. What rules the roost, the power in your home is your mother. Sticky, sweet, manipulative, or mean and sergeant major and cruel. That's what you got. In either way, it upsets you. And you react. And when you react, you fall from being human. And something of the darkness, which is your conflict, enters into you. So there's two of you in there. You, what's left of you, and a bit of her, crying out to all women to love you. Just like the drug addict is really crying out for mama. See, he's crying out for love, reassurance. Tell me I'm all right. Make me think I'm okay. Help me, I'm thinking I'm a god, not a dog. Because in the light of reality, he's a dog. But when he has mama's love, when he has a drug pusher's love, when he has a fix of some kind, when he cries out to something and it comes up out of the dark place, as if he'd croon sweetly for its presence. See, he falls into that. And he only has a momentary illusion of being a better human being, and then he realizes he's worse. And then he hates reality. And it's not you that hates reality, it's that thing in you that hates reality. But you identify with the thing. You identify with this dark self. And you feel pain. And it teaches you how to ease that pain. To go to the very thing that corrupts you for love. Remember, you're a changeling. You don't go to God for love because you don't know where God is. You don't know where the hell he is anymore. You have a nature that is implanted in you, and that nature cries out for what created it. If you were not corrupted, you would have cried out for what created you in its natural way, naturally. And you would have run barefoot through the sand and through the grass, carefree, blessed. And you would always be inwardly sustained and happy. But you've lost the happiness, and you became an unhappy person. And you became a changeling person. Something got inside you and imprinted itself in you and cried out to be complete. From the very thing that put itself in you, you cry out to. First hate, then it turns out to love. And that's your relationship, gentlemen, with women. You cry out for women all the time, and you pressure them. You call forth what isn't good out of them. And it rises. And you gratify yourself with it. And are you better? you're worse. And is she better? She's bitter. Because she needs to be saved from that. She's too busy saving you from that. That could save her. See? And therefore she hates all men even more. And she dies in bitterness and in grief. And her children, God help them, they're you. Now your problem is resentment. That is the root of everything that has ever gone wrong with you from the beginning. And it doesn't make any difference if you remembered where it all began. You may not be able to remember it because you've had so many frustrations and angers and resentments and so many people betraying you and stabbing you back, so many friends that became enemies. So many mornings after the night before that your greater reaction has built greater tension. And each moment badly met is like adding to the present, compressing to the on the past. So it's all buried underneath there somewhere, compressed, repressed. And the pain is so great you have to drink. Well, what are you doing drinking or smoking or whatever it is you do, drugging? How are you solving the problem? You're getting rid of reality. You're listening to the dark side of you that hates reality. It makes you think it's an enemy. It's your friend. So you drink to be unconscious. So when you don't know you're wrong, you think you're okay. And you have the kind of friends that you can get down into, see, and get close to, and draw up some kind of reassurance that wrong is right. You're involved with a lie, more conflict. All right, now, I spent the whole time talking for this portion. We had one good question, and I couldn't stop yapping, so forgive me. What we're going to do is we're going to, for this audience, it's the next half an hour, because I always like to be honest. But for the viewers, it's going to be tomorrow night. So if I'm dressed up in the same suit, I have more than one suit. But I can't be bothered to change for the next half hour, because that's not honest. So I suppose in the next half an hour, which is tomorrow night, for the viewers, we'll leave it for questions. We have some, I hope. Good. Okay, so we'll start off. Thank you very much, everyone, and please join us tomorrow night for part 2. I get applause for that?
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Well, in our last program, sounds like a sitcom, doesn't it? Like in Dynasty. I have to give you a sort of a review of what we did last time, just for the viewer's sake. I was speaking to you about emotions being the mother of addiction. And that's a strongly worded statement. It's exactly what it is. That you become emotional, you separated from your own growing, and you grow out of your mother, and not your father. Every family needs a father to save them from their mother. And that father must be calm and patient. He has to be able to save himself from his wife, your mother. Otherwise, you won't respect him. See, if he's weak for your mother, if your mother can irritate him and upset him and make him lose his cool, so he goes out and gets drunk or beats up on the furniture, or on her, or even you, then what is there to respect in him? And how can a person like that draw you out of yourself, draw you out of your dark self, save you? How can you follow a person like that? So your father needs to be calm. You needed a father to be calm and know how to deal with your mother. A man of great dignity and poise, of which there are very few. So the very fact that you you see that he's strong under all trials and tribulation. He comes through for you. He doesn't fall. It can help you attach to that spirit in him and allow you to guide or to be guided. That's all children need, is a father who is what he advises and leads as he speaks and speaks as he leads. Person without hypocrisy, speaks truth without hypocrisy. He has love, and therefore his truth is believable. But if you have no love, then you have a father who's preachy. You know, do as I do as I say, but not do as I do, sort of thing. So how can you listen to such a person? How can your kind of people? All you can do is get upset. And being upset gives you two wrong choices: to conform or to rebel. But both of those are wrong, because you'll never be yourself. The moment you become upset, you have two wrong choices. And you can never draw a sane breath as long as you live. All the strange psychologies and strange thoughts and feelings and sexual feelings will arise, and fantasies will arise in you, because it awakens. This fall to hostility is tantamount to temptation. It's like a fall from the paradise state of mind. You lose your happiness. And you fall into the lower levels of your head, like Alice in Wonderland, where the Queen Mother rules. See? That is the problem that everybody in this society has. It's called stress and pressure. And of course, once you become stressed and become a changeling, you lose your identity, and you take on the identity of the people you love, hate. So you become like the people you hate or love. You see, you can't avoid it. And then that's your conflict. Even if you get love, you're becoming ruined. Haven't you ever seen a mother upset you 1 minute and then suddenly become Mr. Nice Guy? And that, her love is worse. Her love finishes off what hate implanted. It nurtures what hate implanted. It makes you cry out for her love, for her reassurance. And you feel totally corrupted after, violated by love. Why do you think men have violence, are violent with their wives? Their mother has set them up to seek comfort from women, to become complete through a woman, a complete ass. See? Because the more they dip into that love, and the more the woman rises to the occasion of that need and completes you, it completes what's gone wrong. She finishes off what your mother set you up to cry out for in other women. And other women don't understand why, when they love you, you become a worse person. See? And all the leaders and politicians are women. They're devils in disguise, you see. All the entertainers, with very few of them exceptions. The musicians, the drug pushers, the psychiatrists, all the fixers, all those people who rise to the occasion of pain to solve your problems when you should be solving your own problems. So that whether you get love, you're in trouble. Because even when you get love, you find that you're betrayed. And what happens when you're betrayed? Hate. And more changeling comes in and starts to live with you, takes up residence inside you. What does the Bible say about this? We war not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and powers from their secret places. Right? And that's what I'm trying to tell you now. It's not your mother or your father that's the problem. It's the spirit. You've seen these movies where spaceships come down to Earth and little green mists come out of the spaceship and kill somebody, and then he wakens. He looks like the same person. He died, but he comes back to life, but he's not him. He's not Joe anymore. But he looks like Joe. And Joe's a little strange. Joe's been acting strange lately, but no wonder he isn't Joe. Your kids go out and get drugged, stoned, and they come back and you don't know who they are anymore because he isn't your son anymore or daughter. There's somebody else. He has different allegiances, different loyalties. Whatever corrupts you, you cry out for. You're loyal to it for what it has, which is your life, to fix your soul, to complete your soul, but you become a complete pod person. Now you can't become a complete pod person. But every time you get upset, I don't care what it is, you become more of a pod person. But every time you can forbear to be upset, you become more of a real person. That's the basis of Christianity. To forgive. What does it mean to forgive? It means not to be hateful. See, because if you get upset, if you become upset, the spirit of pride enters you, the spirit of judgment. You become addicted to being upset because a judgmental, prideful pod person is all you know how to be. You're unconsciously looking for things to be upset about. But this, as you find things to upset about, and surely there are plenty of people who give you reasons and complete what was started, so you become more and more a pod person, and you deliver to one pod service person after another, whether it's the friendly dope dealer on the street or the psychiatrist who put your conscience to sleep, so that the pod person takes over. When you come back to reality again, bingo, there's the conflict. And you don't know, how do you deal with this conflict? You have to know that conscience is not an appendage of your Neanderthal past. It's what you've descended from through hostility and resentment. And every time you become resentful, that's the key. How can you control resentment without repressing it? How can you be like the Starship Enterprise? How can you put a force field around your spaceship, an energy field, so you can see the space torpedoes coming and the shields are holding? How can you keep the horror outside on your skin, just on your skin, and doesn't get inside you? That's the secret. And I hope that you're meditating, because that's the secret. Become objective, separate from your pod self. See? Come back to the light that you've been running from. Come back to the pain. Come back to the guilt. Guilt is good. It's better off if you didn't have guilt, because I don't have any guilt. I haven't got any guilt either. I mean, that's Jewish for money. But I haven't got any guilt because my conscience doesn't incriminate me. I just haven't done anything wrong lately. So I'm friends with my conscience. So as long as I'm friends with my conscience, I'm happy. Now you see, you can't upset me. I got my force shields up. I know what you're up to. You're trying to upset me, you swine. Right? See, those people are not happy. They're not happy unless they can upset you and eat out your substance. Because once a person falls from being happy, from the inner nutrient of his own soul. You understand what I mean by that? In other words, we originally have within us a built-in mechanism, a built-in crying to God, and He comes. You know, we don't know we're crying, but we're happy because we're always being fulfilled. Once you become corrupted, you get separated from that nutrient, from the ground of being, you might say. And you cry out to all the wrong people, and you seek approval, and that gets you into trouble. You see? Once you have lost out, you start to feel empty and alone. See, cast adrift, lost, hungry for something. And you don't know how to get it back. But you find yourself, as you grow older, becoming so much like your parent that you have to satisfy the hunger by eating out the substance of your children. That's how it passes from one generation to another. They're talking about it on radio. You know, going from one generation to another. Father beats up son, son grows up to be a wife beater, or so on and so forth. But why does that happen? It's like the vampire. He bites. And he kills you. And when you come back to life, you come back from the dead by being a vampire yourself. It is a dog-eat-dog system, we call it. We have all these little colloquialisms for this, see? Follow? Now, so you have to come back to the ground of your being where you find this inner fulfillment. And you don't have to upset or be upset. See, once you get upset, you have to upset. You may not get ulcers then, you give them. See? All right? So how do you get out of this? You have to sit still and start to be aware where it all began. You hated your parents, and you have to start to realize that they couldn't help themselves, and you have to forgive them, which means suddenly all the harm they've ever done to you becomes unimportant. And from that moment onwards, when you feel the wind of the Spirit, the refreshing of the Spirit, even as you hear me now, you can hear it, feel it inside yourself. Many of you can. Suddenly you feel courage that you start looking forward to meet all those mothers out there and the so-called fathers. Because they're all out there, crazy as bedbugs. They're in the workplace, they're in the schools, hungry for power, seeing you as troublemaker because you're outspoken and you can confront them. They're scared to death of you. Remember, you're not little children anymore. Confront without resentment. First rule of thumb, watch your resentment. That's what you have to control. It's not emotions you control. It's that little flash that gets to you when people are cruel to you and unjust, purposely so. And it takes some doing. You have to be on an eternal vigil. The price of freedom, even in America, is eternal vigil, right? Well, that's the same, the price of your freedom is the same thing. Do we have any questions about this subject? Okay, now, where is our microphone person? Get cracking, kid. Come on now, let's go. Boy, he was so interested in what I had to say, he forgot to do his job. It's all right, I forgive him. See, otherwise I have to go and get drunk.
I just went through that, about 8 months of that love-hate thing with a relationship with a woman.
It's always with a woman, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean,
she's just like your mother?
Not really, in fact.
Well, you just didn't know her long enough. You'll bring it out. She'll throw off a mask one of these days and see that horrible old creature over there that you ran away from.
But, you know, I mean, we'd fight and we'd be apart from each other
and you couldn't wait to get back again.
Right. It was just something drawing, you know, something here that would just...
draw you.
Yeah.
Right? It's not love, is it? It's need. It's need.
Right.
And it's need, it's a dependency. And you pressure, that need is a pressure on that woman. And she responds with resentment because she hates that pressure, but yet something in her, when she starts to hate that pressure, that separates her from her true ground of being, and it brings up a dark side of her instead. See, whenever you're separated, there's no saying that nature abhors a vacuum. See? So the minute you're pressure on that woman because of your need, like an alcoholic, you're just like a drug addict to a woman.
Right.
And you pull on her for the wrong side of her to be supportive. Hey, Mama, make me feel good. See?
Right. I would get caught up even saying that to her.
Yeah, I love you.
Yeah.
God, the worst thing you could say to a woman is, I love you. You're really dead then.
Yeah.
See?
As soon as I
you made her
saying
God. That should be reserved for your Creator. God, I love you. And if you love God, if you said that, if you really meant that to the invisible, that would immediately become manifest as you become a real person. And suddenly you find that you have control over your need for women. And it wouldn't be a pressure. And women couldn't pull you out of your tree. They couldn't aggravate you. They couldn't seduce you. And they would have respect for that. Because they'd find, at last they'd say, hey, I didn't think they made them anymore like that. See? But you're not that way yet, are you?
I'm trying. I think that's what's...
This other gentleman right here next.
We got him going now. When you gain some of that control, do you find it that they are more antagonistic?
Well, yeah, women tend, strangely enough, you mean to say when you really are a man, and you really show that bright side of you that you can't be dominated or ruled, you find that threatens a woman too, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so you're correct. You're correct. You've had some experience. You can't make them happy either way. But you could make yourself happy. See, that's number one. And of course, if you could stay happy all the time and be like 007, never be pulled out of your tree, always make the cool move, eventually you're going to prove to yourself, well, prove to her that you are for real. And you see, if you ever let a woman down one time, Adam fell for Eve one time, and the whole human race has been bred in suffering ever since, right? Women are very unforgiving creatures. See, very, very unforgiving. If you fail them one time, they'll hate you for the rest of your life. You'll have to be working your tuchus off, if you pardon the expression. But don't try to get their approval. That's the worst thing you can do. Don't feel guilty and come back and look for mama's approval, buy a bunch of flowers, and try to get her love again, because you're right back pulling that dark side out and earning her content. She'll give it to you, but she'll hate you afterwards, because you're less afterwards, and you're less able to help her, save her from herself. Do you understand that? Now, so now this is this other self. This maiden's in the tower, and the dragon's got her. So you've got two people in there, the dragon and the maiden. The dragon is expressing itself, and expressing itself through the maiden. So the moment you begin to find out who you are, and you no longer play this girly game, you see, once you've well-founded, your life is built on a rock rather than sand, you're going to infuriate this dragon part of, see? And she's going to hate you. The more perfect you are, the more she's going to try you. She's going to try to pull you out of your tree. But if you hold still and you hold firm, eventually you won't be feeding your carcass. See, if you fall, you feed your carcass to this dragon, and the dragon gets stronger and has a stronger hold on this maiden that cries out for your love. You can't save her because you're not safe yourself. You're being devoured yourself. You're both being devoured. But if you can hold firm, every time it expends its energy and comes against you, and you don't fall, it starves. You're not giving your blood. You're not giving your life stream. You're not bearing your neck. It begins to wither. And the dragon begins to fall away, leaving the maiden. See? Oh, my hero. See? And then you can give Snow White a kiss. Or the Sleeping Beauty. I got my stories mixed up. And you can waken her from her dream. Make sense to you? Took me 34 years to work on my maiden. I was working with a dragon for 34 years.
So that she won't be pulled more away from you. I mean, eventually she'll get to the point where all of a sudden she'll be drawn back.
Exactly. See, the reason why my wife couldn't leave me, because there was something in her waiting for this. She knew it was there, but she had to test it. She was so completely controlled by this, so anesthetized, her soul so deeply in it, because she had a terrible background. So violated by grandparents and all kinds of horrible things. So unconsciously it was always trying to make me into the grandfather she hated and my father she hated, because it needs to feed, right? But I understood that. I didn't know what it was. But one day it came out, because it was coming to the surface. Her dragon was dying, and yielding up all kinds of memories as it sort of turns back into steam, into smoke. So the maiden's in there somewhere, but it's kind of late. She's 54 now years old. I don't have any use for her anymore. But that's true love, don't you see? I don't have any use for her, but I love her. It's when you use her that you don't love her. You understand the difference now? It sounds very cold and callous. I don't have any use for her. But you see, you can always love people you don't need. How can you love somebody you need? That's not possible. Unless you think need is love, but then you're confused. But even if you're confused, you're going to have conflict. Because it really isn't love. And only love will do. It only does for you. Love will take away your conflict, and eventually it will sow it as other people. But if they hate you, all they have to, they'll see eventually by the light of your goodness that they're hating you without a cause. And eventually they'll come out of it by the means I just described. The dragon dies. It's got, only thing it can feed on is you. Yes, anybody else? Anything exciting going on out there? Good. Well, we got a lady right over here. Just right over here. She's dying to express herself.
Well, I want to let you know that I have been smoking marijuana since 15 years ago.
Really?
Yes. And I have been very ashamed with my family, because my children, they cry, they ask me not to do it. But
you love your children more than... The question is, now you have to ask yourself a question. You see, being married is, in my opinion, is a way of giving up unselfishness, or giving up selfishness.
Mm-hmm.
If you weren't married, you wouldn't need to be unselfish, would you? Marriage is a training ground, how to give up selfishness. The more unselfishness you give up, the more selfishness you give up, the more you leave the purebred person that your children love.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, do you love yourself, your mean, rotten self? Do you love your children more than yourself? Then the question is this: I have to give up marijuana, and then it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
See?
It's been very hard for me because
you're so angry.
right.
Who are you angry with? My husband.
with myself.
Yes, and who else?
Yes.
Not just yourself. Where's your husband?
I lost my husband.
Where did you lose him?
For the
Down the sewer
same
somewhere?
reason.
Where did you lose him? He died?
No. He went with
Some other
another
woman? Yeah.
Yes.
Why did he go with some other woman?
Because he didn't like to. He didn't
like responsibility.
He didn't like I smoke.
Marijuana?
Right.
Well, maybe he was the reason why you smoked marijuana.
Yes.
But you resented him, didn't you?
Yes, I am.
You resent him leaving and going with another woman now, right?
Right.
You resent him leaving you alone to take care of the kids. And what have you got as a result of resentment? You become an ugly little snake inside, don't you? A little dragon in there. You don't want to face yourself, so you put your high self to sleep, that you don't have to see yourself. But your children see you.
Yes.
You may see yourself and you may think you're a wonderful person, but really you're a dragon lady. And you're horrible to your children, guaranteed. So why don't you give up resenting your husband? It has no future. But you know something? You're addicted to hating men, aren't you?
Yes, I do.
See? Started with your father, didn't it? Were you molested as a kid?
Excuse me?
Were you molested as a child?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Molested? Speak Spanish, anybody?
Yes, I
Te usó papá sexualmente.
No, he didn't.
No?
No.
But you resented your daddy?
Yes.
That's where it all begins. Forgive him. Otherwise you're just as bad as your mother or your father or everybody you hate to your own children. You hate injustice? You are injustice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, learn the lesson.
Thank you.
Forgive and forget. And be patient from now onwards. Be all right. All right, anybody else? There was somebody in the back there that wanted to say something? Anybody else? Okay, the gentleman right there.
Yeah, resentments, is that, when you reduce the resentments, is that freedom of bondage of self?
Exactly. You give up resentment and you're freed from evil. That's the end of it. It won't give up on you lightly, because you're going to become that different. You know, when you were a little child, you were different. Remember I was speaking about that in my last segment? When you were a little child, everybody saw that you were different, and they made you think you were the ugly duckling when really you were a beautiful swan. And then you met Roy Masters, and he made you realize, well, the reason why you're ugly is because you're not a duckling. You're a beautiful swan. You are different, but you never met one of your own kind. And when now you have, then you're immediately relieved of the problem. But still, when you give up resentment and you start to see clearly again, because resentment blinds you to reality, that's why you get upset. Have you ever argued with a person that's angry? You make him angry, he sees even less what you're saying. He uses anger not to see the truth and to judge you. See? So it comes right back down to the fact that when you start to give up anger and resentment, you start to see clearly again. And you start to remember the past. And you're able to deal with it without anger, resentment, of course. See? Your memories will come to the surface. But then you'll be right back in the same kind of naivete, the same kind of innocence that you were when you were a little child. Immediately the world starts to attack you. Except the difference is, you're not a little child. And remember that. You don't have to get upset. You've got control of yourself now. You understand what the world is all about. They're trying to destroy you because they want to turn you into a pod person. And they don't want the likes of us to come to inherit the kingdom. The likes of us will inherit the kingdom one day. This is our planet. See? Except there's more of them than there is of us. But if you understand how to fight the war, learn to be patient, long-suffering, it's all in the Bible. Go read your Bible. It's all there. Now the words will start lighting up now. Start to appreciate it. I'm a sort of strange Bible teacher, and I'm not Jesus Christing you to death. And I'm not Moses walking on the Red Sea to death either. Okay, we got just 30 seconds, and just to wind up, so that we're going to have another go at this next week. But if you see me in the same suit, next week is still tonight for you guys. All right, so we'll have more questions, do we? Good, all right. Thank you very much, and join us next week.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Here we are again. Last week, which was only an hour ago for us, this is an ongoing thing on smoking and drinking, and I help so many people to stop smoking and drinking that there aren't many people here tonight, because I do my job well on the radio. The first time you hear me on the radio, if you really understand what I'm saying and long to understand, you throw your cigarettes and your marijuana and your cocaine away without any withdrawal symptoms. You know what withdrawal symptoms are? You know why we have withdrawal symptoms? It has nothing to do with body chemical, addiction. Nothing to do with it all. The experts are cuckoo. I'll debate with experts till kingdom come. Never will for them. I'm already there. But it has to do with guilt. See, so that when you give up your drug, your fix, you come back to consciousness again. When you come back to consciousness, you come back to pain. And this is conflict. Conscience. Terrible, bad conscience. It's a screaming agony. So nearly everybody who gets off drugs goes on something else equivalent. You cannot get it. I mean, the drug centers do not cure drugs. No such thing. Doesn't happen. I met a young man in the street. He's collecting money for the drug center to cure addicts. He's smoking a cigarette. I said, "You off drugs?" He said, "Sure." I said, "What the hell you smoking that cigarette for?" He said, "That's not a drug." I said, "Of course it is." He's addicted to, just like addicted to Alcoholics Anonymous. He's off drink, but he's addicted to Alcoholics Anonymous. He can't not go. He can't leave one night out. I don't know which is worse, alcohol or Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm sure that they have a value, but then you can become addicted to people, places, or things. For instance, if I was to hypnotize you right now, I'm an expert hypnotist, or used to be. I could stop you smoking. I could stop you, get you off your cocaine, just like that. I said, "Now you won't like this cocaine," and you turn your nose down on it, because you wouldn't need it anymore. That moment you wouldn't need it. You know why you wouldn't need it? Because I have reduced your consciousness. I know how to do a better job of putting your consciousness to sleep and give you good ideas about yourself. See, I'm a living, breathing devil. I know exactly how to reduce your consciousness. I know how to manipulate your mind and pull you away from awareness and make you feel comfortable. Women know how to do it. Entertainers know how to do it. You can get lost in your music. You can anesthetize your brain with music, take away the pain, float away in some kind of auto-suggestion. Om, Om, there's no place like Om. Om savings. You could lose yourself in your own noise if you want to, and take pain away. You can float away from pain. From where the pain is, where the conflict is, you float away. There's peace apart from God, or there's peace with God. Peace with God, you have to get right with Him. You have to let the truth make you aware of what you've done wrong, and you have to feel sad and repentant and committed to living your life according to your conscience. And in order to do that, you have to understand all the forces that take you away from consciousness and conscience. See? And one of them is resentment. If you give up resentment, you can give up smoking. If you give up hate, in other words. Resentment is another word for hate. Everybody's resentful, everybody gets upset. Everybody says that. It's only natural to be... No, it's not natural to be upset. Go ahead and try to upset me. You won't be able to do it. You get upset trying to upset me. Go ahead and try to drive me to drugs. I'll drive you to drugs trying to drive me to drugs. I'll drive you mad trying to drive me mad. I'll make you sting yourself to death like a scorpion. That's what I want you to do to those pushers out there. All right? I want to get you to be very, very strong. But how do I get you to be strong? Your way of being secure is being unconscious. That's why you smoke. You snort. You drink. I'm not saying you do, because many of you don't even have those problems here. I help so many people, because this program this evening was for, for smoking and drinking and all that, but most of you are okay. I can't get enough people out there who are not okay from listening to my programs to have a big enough group to talk to. So that's okay too. I ought to go out and get drunk because I can't get enough people to talk to. But how do we become stronger than the world? How did you feel secure before? It's by becoming unconscious. You were wrong, but you weren't conscious that you were wrong, and then you felt secure. That's called ego, pride. You always felt secure because you always found something to fix the pain, the truth, to took you away from the truth. As long as there's no truth, then you can't... If you're standing in front of a judge, and you had done some terrible crime, and he was just about to hit the gavel on his bench, and all of a sudden a great big tornado came and tore him away, and you stand there and all the jury's gone, you're standing all alone with no one to convict you, then you wouldn't feel guilty. You say, hey! There goes the judge. Right? It's the same thing. Your conscience, because you have a judgment on yourself. And the only way you've known how to deal with this terrible pain of judgment is to become innocent, is to blow away the judge. Not be conscious, but you're dying. Not knowing that you're wrong isn't right, but to you it was the only right you knew. If you didn't know you were wrong, then you were okay. See? And you'll get caught up hypnotically in friends. And they take away your pain, but they'd also give you pain. Because every time you use something to take away from pain, what's it doing? You're rejecting reality. You're playing a God trip, a God game. You're moving away from reality. You're rejecting reality. The first original sin was to reject reality, to become reality. To reject God, to become our own God. See? And then we need that which took us away from God, that reduced consciousness and made us unaware of something greater than ourselves and made us aware that we are great. See? Like the commercial says, I fry up the potatoes and put it in a pan and I never forget you're a man. Did you ever see that one? That's how it goes. She never lets you forget you're a man. She keeps reminding you that you're a man. Otherwise, if she didn't remind you, you'd find you were an ape. She made a monkey out of you. There's always somebody making a monkey out of you by reminding you that you're wonderful when you're not. And for a little while, you get a little high, but then you find that you're in a new low. Manic depressive, if you like. But your problem is that you've been solving your problem by becoming unconscious that you have a problem. Follow? Now do you see the light of day a little bit? You see that the way to solve problems, to have power over problems, is to become conscious, to struggle up, come out of your Alice in Wonderland world of imagination, and to give up all of your anesthetics and your fixes, your friends, your music, drugs, all that scumbag world of hellhole compadres, and come up to the light and just become that pure child of truth. That innocent kid that the world hates, the world despises. And I want you to become like the road runner. Beep, beep. And the old wicked fox is always trying to catch you, but falling into his own hole. Right? That's exactly what's going to happen. No one can hurt you, and no one can touch you. Everybody who wants to hurt you ends up hurting themselves. Try to upset me, and as I said a few moments ago, you end up stinging yourself. You get frustrated, you get upset because you can't upset me. And you try again, and you use up all your energy. And all you've done is given me the opportunity to grow, like the matador with the bull. Every time the bull charges, the matador becomes more gracious. After a while, I can just kneel down, and the bull right behind me, and he won't even dare touch me, even with my back towards him. Go on, I dare you. He's all worn out and scared. Then I can run him through any time I want to, and serve him up for meat. Okay? That's the attitude. I'm telling you, you're going to have the Superman quality. And it's possible, but not right away. I mean, you got to go and face the bull again, because you've been gored so many times and you failed so many times. You're really afraid to face the bull, and the bull's looking for you. You know, one of the reasons why matadors become matadors, because they can't even handle their mothers. They have to go fight bulls to prove it. It's true. It's easier to fight the bull than their mother-in-law, you know what I mean? Remember the principalities and powers and the hidden abode? That's it, right there. So you have to have spiritual courage. And that's why the spiritual courage enters at the moment, the place where you're conscious. Remember last time I said that when you become angry, you become less aware. You get pulled away from the ground of your inner being. You get pulled away from the light, and something dark enters, and you become subject. And they keep on aggravating you, keep you subject. And you hate that. But the more you hate it, the more you stay subject. That's why you mustn't hate it. Nor must you hate yourself. Because you turn your hate towards them, but then you turn it towards yourself. You think, oh, I'm a good person, I don't hate anybody, I just hate myself. Still the same thing. You're hating the thing. You're hating them in you. You're hating what you've become. It's them. You're still hating them. You hated it when it was outside, now it gets inside, and you hate it, no, you hate it when it's inside. And it still eats you up. No. And you're still caught up in your imagination hating it. Because the hate pulls you down from consciousness. Gives the illusion, well, I'm judging myself, I'm hating myself, therefore I'm all right. No, it's not all right. You're dying, you're killing yourself. It's eating you alive. It's teaching you how to do that. It's mocking you inside. You carry the presence of that person you hated all your life, and it stands over you, driving you to do what it did when it stood over you on the outside. It stands inside you like a presence, haunting you, making you make the same mistakes over and over again, and you hate yourself, but it's it you hate. And it is her, the mother you hated, the father you hated. See that? And your behavior patterns are constantly revived, and slowly you go to hell in a handbasket. No, you want to be conscious. You want to combat the forces of unconsciousness. Just like there's a spirit of darkness that gets inside you and takes over your behavior and gives you dark and strange thoughts, inhuman thoughts, thoughts that make you ashamed, lustful, violent thoughts, murderous thoughts. Just like there is a process by which these thoughts congeal and act themselves out, as you as the vessel. So there's a process exactly opposite to that on the other side. You have to come up to consciousness, and that's why you meditate. To separate from this Alice in the Wonderland world of consciousness, unconsciousness, and become conscious. And that's what I'm going to teach you. Maybe we can do something in this session if we have time. I think I've actually gone over the point of no return as far as the experiment with the cigarette. So can I just have a few questions? Is there any questions at this point about this process of consciousness? Did anybody flash on anything you want to talk about? Nothing? Responsive lot, aren't you? Have I dealt with it so perfectly? Yeah. Somebody was going to ask me a question there before, but Mr. Masters, is it gone? Was it gone?
I had a question.
Go ahead.
This
I'm
was,
glad I stirred you up there.
This was an hour ago or a couple of shows ago. I'm really not quite sure which one it was.
That's all right.
But once you get on the path, do you find yourself, or I found myself, loving myself a lot more. And I came from a person that I never really liked to a person that I really do like. And consequently, what I found is I find it easier to love other people. And is it safe to express that?
Love?
Well, I mean, I know it's always good to express love, but
of course.
do you? Is that something that that you do express to other people all the time? And
I express it all the time. Don't you see it?
yeah.
I mean, I just love to talk to you guys. I can't even shut up.
So it's like if you know that somebody's in need or hurting or something, regardless of whether you know who they are, to just go up there and hug them or.
Oh no, hugging. You don't hug anybody. Not right now.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're going to get caught up into the wrong kind of love. Out will pop the devil. You know what I mean? Lust. This business of everybody getting up and hugging each other and giving each other support, that's for the birds. What people really need. Can you imagine me running around, putting my arms around people, giving them a little bit of love, and everybody crying, and sobbing? Oh, isn't the right master's a wonderful person? Look, he's so loving, and everybody comes up to me, gives them a little hug, and everybody waits. And have you ever seen those guys on television where everybody does their little huggy thing? Hugging is woman stuff. When you're a little baby, you needed to be hugged. You got a little bit of you got a little something from your mother that way. You better not get too much. See what I mean? Because the love that little children need for their little egos, they are born little egotistical creatures, and they need this closeness, this display of affection from their mother. But their father, that's the first leg of the journey. Little children are bonded to their mothers. They come from their mothers. They're little. The Bible says man is born first of water and then of spirit. He's first an earthy man. He's first of the earth, sensual, beastly. He comes out that way. Man originally fell from the other direction. In the fall, man was pure, spiritual, mostly light. You've noticed that when you give into an emotion, when you give into a habit, an impulse, a dark impulse, you become less of a human being, more of an animal, with greater conflict about the animal you are. That's why you need to escape the truth. The animal in you tries, the ego in you doesn't want to face that you're deteriorating into becoming an animal, death-centered creature. So, but we descend into animal nature, and our bright nature slowly goes out. The more you give in, the more you can give in. The more power it has over you, and your little light goes up. And then you're all beast, and then you perish like the beast of the field, like the grass of the earth. But you come out of your mother's being an earthy creature. First you're born of nature, because you come up now you're coming back the other way, right? Woman was first born of man, but now man is born of woman. See? And you come up to the threshold of awareness and consciousness, and there's this light there, and you have to make a transition between the darkness and the light, being the animal self and the human self. There's a point in your life where you have to make a decision which way you want to go. You want to give up the light and join the rest of the people of the world, or you want to give up, or does your conscience say, hey, there's another way, right? So the first part of your journey is from a woman, and maybe back to a woman, being a father and a husband. But in order to be a real father, you have to give up the hugging from the woman yourself. Believe it or not, you cannot be embraced by a woman, and this is very difficult for you to grasp. But I'm glad you brought it up. You cannot embrace that woman like you were just a little boy, trying to get that from your mummy. that you always knew from your mummy, that came from your mummy, and you keep going back to mummy for it, because that's the very love that you need from a woman that you must transcend in order to be a man that a woman can love. See, a woman needs a man not to need him, not to need her that way. So you have to transcend. You have to transcend what a woman's love, because what you have to do is find God's love. It's a spiritual love. Men fell out of love from God and fell into love. You always use that expression, I fall in love. But do you really mean fall? Yes, you do. You fall out of love with yourself, reality, this happy self, this original self, and you fall in love with a woman who gives you love, but it's a sensuous love. It's the love for the earthy man. Follow that? Now, what people in this world need, both men and women need, is not the huggy, huggy, kissy, kissy love. That's for the birds. That's what you get everywhere. It's all, if the very best, it's phony. What you need, remember I said in one of my sessions, what children need, what women need is truth, a man who's full of honor, full of virtue, not full of beans, full of truth. See? You have to be a good example. And you must have love in you. And when you have love, you have truth. And when you have truth, truth is believable. And there's something about this truth, this believable truth, that all human beings are wanting to hear. If you were a true father, and if you were a true husband, and you could sit at your table, totally believable, and when children ask you a question, you know the answer, and you know how to guide them away from temptation, and teach them this, and show them that, and say, no son, that's not the way. When you go out with girls, blah, 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 when you do this business deal, just watch out, don't like your car too much. See, it's like your woman. If you like your woman too much, then your woman has you, you don't have a woman, right? See, the car has you, and the salesman has, got you. See, you've got to be believable. And that is the love that I want you to find. Now, with this love, an occasional little brace. Yes, gentle brace. It isn't something, and when you embrace somebody, and when they want this embrace from you, I assure you, women want to be embraced in a special way. Most men, when they embrace a woman, they get a feeling out of it. You know what I mean? and they get a feeling from the woman, a nutrient. And they actually fall and become very obnoxious and lustful, right? Men can hardly be around a woman like that without, wanting to go crazy with her. So, but can you find the strength in yourself to be the center of love for the woman rather than making the woman the center of love for you, being the source of love, support for you? You see, what women are looking for, what children are looking for, and we're speaking of love now, what they're looking for is a man, a father, who doesn't draw from them, that doesn't make his wife into his mother, right? And the man that can do this, that doesn't call from a woman, has no need for a woman then can feel she can draw her need and find her satisfaction through him. And that's all the woman is looking for. But as long as you satisfy your need from the woman, as long as you have those feelings from women, or even feeling from your own little child, you can get it from your children too, You can give feelings and get feelings, and that's not healthy. It's far removed from what psychiatrists and psychologists are teaching you. You must be a non-needful person. Only a person who has no need or less need has more love. The less need, the more love. And then your woman feels safe. Your children feel safe. Because what is it about you that doesn't need? It's love. The love of truth is in you. It's taken your need away from people, places, and things. I'm driving, look, my kids, one day I always wore old clothes, so even this doesn't match today. But I always wear older clothes, and and I drive an older car. So one day, my kids got together and they decided that we're going to make me buy a new car for the foundation. All right, so I guess we could have afforded it. I needed a reliable means of transportation. So they got me the thing with this T-top. So they took the T-top and they opened the door and said, okay, now you sit in there. Now I sat in the car. He said, Dad, how do I feel? How do you feel? I said, it's a car. He says, no, but how do you feel? I don't feel anything. And I drove away. He says, doesn't it feel good? It's a very nice car. See now, but if they would have got into the car at that time, they drive around the road feeling this car. Feeling this car. Feeling, drive. Right, feeling, and you know, after a week or two, feeling, and then getting the girl gets in the car, he feels even more. See? I mean, I don't mean that as a pun. I mean, he's got this girl by his side, reinforcing. And then he's got his friends, he shows off the friends, another feeling. People live in their feelings all the time. They get feelings from things. They become addicted to feelings from things. They draw their identity when they draw feelings from things. And then their whole life is shaped by they draw their life. Music is their whole world. Dancing is their world. Cars are their whole world. Women are the whole world. They draw their life, their identity from below, not above. Such a man that has so many needs and is so addicted, so enslaved, so sensual, cannot love. You understand what I'm trying to say? You want to love people? Don't need them. How can you correct people you need? How can you speak up to your boss if you need him? How can you speak up to your wife if you need him? How can you correct anyone when you need them? Well, you've got to be correct yourself. And when you correct yourself, you don't need them. And when you don't need them, people see love. You're believable. That's all. All right? Get the point? Did I talk too much?
No.
Well, we went through another half an hour, and I never got to the point. I see all them sitting there with the cigarettes in their hand. Okay, well, we'll talk about consciousness in the second half, which is tomorrow night. But tomorrow night is still tonight. It's only tomorrow night for the viewers. It's still tonight. So you can hang on to your cigarettes, and I'll show you how consciousness affects your habits, and how just by being conscious you can become a better human being without any effort whatsoever. And just think of it. Just being aware of what's wrong with you, without running, without escaping, without being angry, what you see can change what you're looking at. So we'll do our little thing tomorrow night in the next section, which still is tonight for us. Thank you.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
We were talking about substance abuse, and I was getting to the point where I'm going to show how just being aware can actually is enough power to affect a change in behavior and even need for any substance, person, place, or thing. But we got into love a few minutes. We got into love, and we're talking about embracing people in a non-sexual way, in a non-use way. And you had something more to say about that. I'm sorry I didn't let you finish the last time, but I get a little bit long-winded.
What I had said was, well, just what you had just recently said about having the ability to hug somebody in the non-sexual way. Is that causing, is that, I don't know, I get good joy out of it. I enjoy that.
That's pure joy.
But does that make me less of a man then?
Oh, no, 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 no. There's a good joy and there's bad joy. There's good pleasures and bad pleasures. Now you have to understand that good pleasures are what you are discovering. There's certain kinds of men are so used to hugging something in a sexual way. It could be the dog or the cat or the sheep. Not even sheep are not safe from them. You know what I mean? Pardon me. But even, do you know why fathers, for example, reject their daughters or children? Because the only way they know how to embrace someone with love is to get a feeling from it. It starts with their wives and girlfriends and all the rest of it. But the only love they know how to give is really the love they want from something. So they can't help but embrace everything. Anything they like, they embrace the same way as they embrace a woman. And they get the same feeling out of it. So when it comes to their daughters, they will molest their daughters or become so afraid of molesting them, even their sons. It's the same thing. They're warm-blooded. It wouldn't make much difference to it. It's just warm and has the same kind of, sexual connotations. But rather, they're so afraid of their own feelings that they reject their own children. They won't touch them and come near them and reject them because they're afraid to embrace them. They're afraid to love them. And that way they avoid that experience. Follow that?
Sure.
That's the trouble with men. They're just used to getting feelings out of everything. And after a while, it's their wives, it's their girlfriends, it's their daughters, it's their sons, it's the cat, the dog, even the canary, if they could manage it. I'm sorry to be so crude, but the crudeness is out there. You were relating, there's a gentleman right over there, so if we can just manage to get his comments, I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Well, like he was saying when he hugs his son, how he feels. Well, I have a 7-month daughter, and well, when I hug her, it's not like I'm taking something from her. It's a hug with love, but I feel distant.
That's right.
But I feel the love.
That's right.
So, when he was talking about, well, does it make you feel less?
No.
Well, no. And
that's true love.
Yeah.
In other words, you're learning what the good love is.
Yes.
So I play with my children, my grandchildren, and we have so much fun. Mm-hmm. And it's such a joyous thing. But some parents don't know how to play with their children, where they're getting a funny feeling out of it. When mothers nurse their babies, see, they can get a sexual thrill out of having them suck on their breasts.
Mm-hmm.
And they get they get all kinds of releases. I don't even like to mention what it is,
mm-hmm.
climaxing, just from the baby doing that sexual thing. And then the doctors and psychiatrists encouraging this great insanity. See? So, but if she could suckle that baby without that, then she's not violating that baby. That baby feels being drawn on. That baby feels violated. And if any time you start, have you ever been hugged by someone? I mean, someone wants to, have you ever been embraced by someone who you wanted to embrace and just kiss gently on the cheeks because it's a greeting and it's the beautiful thing to do, and they hug you a little bit too long, Don't you feel a violation, being drawn on? You know that, don't you? Children know that. Something's wrong. It's a psychic thing. It's a want. It's a craving. It's need. It violates by its very presence. It draws on you. And this is the problem that men have with women. The very presence of a man, draws on that quality in a woman. And she doesn't know how to react. She feels violated by the way men look at her. When she's very young, little innocent child, men look at her in a certain way, and she feels the look. She doesn't know what it is, but she feels it leaping across the ether, violating her. She wants to run, scream. Once she becomes violated by it, though, she starts to yield herself to it. And then there's a life of insanity. Because you yield yourself to a man like that, you satisfy the need, and what you got? You haven't cured it, you've created it. The more you create it, the more it needs. The more it needs, the more it violates you, the more it forces you to service it. It begs, it forces. But the pressure is there. See? So, we need a different kind of love, don't we? In order to be a real father, you have to save yourself from your wife. If you can't save yourself from mother, then you can't save the children. You won't stand there as a shining light without need, but full of love. And then you'll be full of love, full of need, and full of the wrong kind of love. And if your wife won't give it, you'll find somebody who does. And the someone who does, well, your lot with her will be worse than it was before. And every time that need is fulfilled, you become, your need, the guilt, and the need to escape from it, to lose consciousness in some embrace, to find fulfillment. You know, the fulfillment, F-O-O-L, fulfillment. To complete yourself, because every time you escape from your consciousness, every time you escape from your awareness and kill the pain of truth, what are you doing? You do two things at once. You are escaping, you know, burying yourself deeper in something. And why do you bury yourself deeper into it? So as to get at the core and draw the completion for this alien identity. Completion for your spirit. But it's the wrong completion. More conflict. More unconsciousness. Deep down you go to relieve the terrible pain. You're relieving pain because you're becoming unconscious. At the same time you're becoming more of a person, but more of a beast with great conflict. Now, we are going to do the little smoking experiment. Light up, folks. Time, gentlemen, please. Pass the lighter around, because I can stand this stuff, it's just so long. Okay? Light it up. Would you bring those matches over here, please? Just take that, thank you. Well, I might as well show you this while I'm about it. Can't resist the temptation. Just light me up, like that. Let's say like that.
The other side.
Are you ready? Are you ready for this? Okay, we'll try it. Ow! Nope, it doesn't burn. It's because my consciousness is asleep. Now, we want to stop smoking. You are smokers now? Have you understood everything I've said this evening? Most everything I've said the last hour or two? Have you all understood this business of consciousness? Now, this, uncross your legs, please. I haven't hypnotized you or anything, have I? Not that you know of, anyway. So you're fully aware of what you're doing? Would you please cooperate? It will not work if you don't cooperate. It will not work if you don't understand what I'm saying. If you can't make a separation between self and self, the thinker and the thinking. For instance, look at me for a minute. And if just refocus your eyes just a second. And I'm a very interesting fellow, and it's very easy to get involved with my person. Like watching TV, and pretty soon you forget that you're sitting in your chair and you're in the TV set, right? So I can sort of draw you in. I don't mean to, but I am interesting. So you can actually forget self and become sort of merged with the thoughts and me who produces the thoughts. That's a kind of hypnotic state. When you're watching, so I let my kids watch TV, and they're 5 years old, and they're watching cowboys and Indians. And I say, Joshua, get out of the TV set. He looks at me, and you know, they know what you're talking. Get out of you don't want to become the TV set. See? And what I'm doing is, I'm not forbidding the TV set. I'm teaching them how to relate to a TV set. Joshua, don't get too close to the animal. They'll get too much feeling from that animal. And the animal stays outside. The animal lives outside, and we live in here. There's the doghouse for the animal, and this. See? Don't get too much feeling from the animal. You turn into an animal. They understand that. See? And same with teddy bears and things like that. See, I'm teaching them how to relate. Because if you don't do that, they start to get feelings from things, and they start to become unconscious, and they start to be dictated through and acted through those feelings. You actually have possession by animals. People have animals inside them, people inside them, because of the feeling relationship they've had with everything. That which makes you unconscious causes, in your unconsciousness, something slips inside you of the thing that made you unconscious. I'm telling you, you can have animals and creatures inside that are all because of your upbringing in childhood. I'm preparing the way, because you'd be surprised what's inside you now. The whole world is full of creatures inside there, horrible, unspeakable things in human beings. You should see my success with the cross. The kind of things that are inside human beings you can't believe, because they're not related to their Creator. So I want you to be conscious, because when you're conscious, you drive out all kinds of strange thoughts. You come to grips with compulsion. Now, before the cigarette goes out, you can drop that on the carpet, that's all right. We'll sweep it up. Very proper. Now, you ready? Now, I want you now to try a little experiment. Focus your attention on me just for a minute. And can you put a distance between you and me? Do you know what I'm talking about? Putting a distance between you and me. Like I'm sitting over here, and you sit over there. Get out of the TV set. All right, stand back and look at me from a distance. In other words, what I want you to do is look at your thoughts looking at me. Have you ever driven a car down the highway and you see your hands on the steering wheel and it feels like that highway is driving down you and you're not driving down the highway? At that moment, you've got a little moment of awareness, a little distance between you. You can actually see your own thoughts. Close your eyes and you can see your own thoughts. Look at your own thoughts, and then you feel objective. You feel a little strange. Do you feel a little strange now looking at me? Just a little, like I'm a little bit weird, a little distant? All right? Now, you're objective. If you've done that, now, be aware of your cigarette. Now, the purpose of a cigarette and the purpose of a drink and the purpose of eating is to create the feeling, the hypnotic feeling that pulls your consciousness away into the feeling and makes you feel better. See that? But actually makes you worse. But the point is, the pain is increased, which increases the need for unconsciousness, but it's another drag, another drink, more eating, until you eat yourself silly, drink yourself silly, smoke yourself until you've got cancer, and you smoke through a hole in your throat. Still can't stop because you've got so much guilt. Now, let's do the other thing. Do you remember what Jesus said? He said something about, he passed the wine around and he passed the bread around, he broke the bread. He says, do this remembering me. You know what happened? The first time man ate, and ever since that he has a problem with food and women. He ate the forbidden fruit of pride, forgetting the truth. Every time you eat food, that's why everybody's got problems with fat little munchkins we are. We've got problems with food. Women are always looking for ways to make men happy with food. And every little bite, the way to the man's heart is through his belly, right? That's right. Slips into the moment of unconsciousness, into the mind when you're gratified in something. Now, let's do the opposite. Let's see if you can do something, smoke that cigarette and be aware at the same time. And watch what happens. Now, ready? Look at your cigarette and look at it very slowly. Look at it carefully and see what happens when you start. Now, look at it and be objective to it. Can you do that, please? Now, see what happens when you try to put that cigarette into your mouth. Because I know you like to smoke, but let's be very aware as you do this and see what happens as you bring it close to your mouth to the smoke. Just be very aware of what you're doing now, and if you happen to get it to your mouth, taste it. Be aware of the flavor in your mouth, and don't be unconscious. Watch what happens, and watch what happens. What's happening to you? It tastes terrible. It always tastes terrible. When you're unconscious, you see, when you're unconscious, you can't be conscious of its taste. The alcoholic doesn't know he's drinking. He doesn't know he's a drunk. He's rejected reality so much, he doesn't know he's a drunk. Try again. How about you? What's happening to you? Anything special?
I don't really want to do it.
Well, you don't want to do it, as opposed to wanting to do it. What's happening to you, if anything?
I don't want to do it.
You don't want to do it. In other words, but try it now. Put it to your mouth, though, and see what happens.
Just doesn't taste good.
Doesn't taste good. That doesn't do anything for you. Now, back to this other lady here. Let's try you. Go ahead. What about you?
It doesn't taste good. It makes me a little
dizzy, like you're doing it the first time. You do it again. It went out? Okay. What's,
Yeah, it went out also.
Okay. But you see the point that I'm making? Some people can't even put it to their mouths. How about you? It's just, you don't want to do it, do you? See? Now, have I proved the point? I waited such a long time, your cigarettes went out. But I think we made a point. Now, if you could, next time you picked up a cigarette, please, it's okay. I mean, I can't say, don't smoke. I don't want to be like your parents. Don't ever let me catch you smoking again. The first thing you want to do is smoke. Resentment. I'm not asking you to do that. You have a different... What I'm asking you to find is your parent's spirit. I'm like your father you've never known. I speak to you truth with love. I'm not hugging you, and I'm not kissing you. I'm not giving you that huggy warmth that makes you sick to your stomach. I'm only to tell you what you need to know. Someone needs to love you and say, don't do that, daughter. But if you have to do it, put it to your mouth and learn how to deal with it. Like get out of the television, Joshua, right? Be aware of what you're doing. And you'll see that every time you put that cigarette down, the purpose of the cigarette is to become unconscious. But if you become conscious, it reverses the intended effect. You'll see, what am I doing this for? This is ridiculous. And you'll put it down yourself. The very presence of a consciousness, the awareness, is the power to change your habit. And you don't have to struggle. You don't have to make yourself stop. You just don't want it. There's something coming through that consciousness that is antithetical to the sickness of smoking or drinking. Yes, sir.
Can you relate that like to having a beer or
anything?
A drink?
When you open the refrigerator, okay, become conscious of what you're doing, right?
Okay, like right now, like before I leave here, I want to have a beer.
Well, go over and get one. And be conscious of what you're doing.
Okay.
Go home and take it home. Open the bottle. Be very aware of what you do. See the bottle sitting there? Okay? Look at it. Put it to your lips. And be fully aware of what you're doing. And you probably only drink about half of it and say, that's enough, thank you. And you'll be all right. And do that with everything. With the refrigerator. You know, I mean, don't eat the refrigerator, but with sex. With sex, don't forget yourself in everything. Remember yourself in everything, and that will modify. See, that way, if you indulge yourself, what happens is you become so into it, it possesses you. So one minute you're hungry for sex and you can't get enough of it, and then you're running the opposite way. You can't live with it, but then you can't live without it either. You eat too much and then you go on a binge and you get skinny, but you can't stand yourself because the more you are without food, the more you want food. Then the more you get food, the more you may get sick of it because it creates more guilt. See? So you feel guilty because you eat too much, you feel guilty because you have too much sex, so you figure, well, the opposite to have, if food makes me guilty and sex makes me guilty, maybe I ought to go without sex, without guilt. And then you go to the other extreme, you're just as guilty because that doesn't make you guilty not having sex. What are you going to do with food? You got to eat. Some people have so much problem with the food that they have to feed them intravenously in hospitals because they don't know how to deal with food properly. So what I'm trying to say is they've used food to make them unconscious, to reject reality. And into them in that moment slips that dark spirit of reinforcement of their ego, great conflict. And they struggle against the control it has over them. But then the struggle is usually with what? Anger, resentment. They get mad at themselves. You get mad at yourself when you smoke. You get mad at yourself. What happens? The madder you get with yourself, what happens? You smoke more. You drink more. Because when you're angry, it separates you from the power of love. It makes you less conscious. See? Anger intensifies the need for the very thing you're mad about. Remember we spoke about that? And even willpower has an emotion of anger, resentment. You can't have any willpower unless you're really mad. That anger and resentment is the handmaiden of pride and ambition. You see? So, that's what it is. You can't exert your will without being angry. But the moment you become angry, you've got the conflict of pride, the separation from the ground of your being. You'll be separated from the very power that you need to conquer the habit, intensifying your need. So alcoholics may hate their drink, and you may hate to smoke, and you may hate yourself for smoking, but the hate intensifies the love of it. So you can drink and vomit in your beer if you like, but all the willpower and all the anger in the world won't save you. But simply not being angry, not being resentful, becoming objective, and observing those people who make you angry in an objective state takes their power away from you, that drives you to drink, that drives you to be angry with yourself, to stop the drink, the smoke, the cocaine. Follow? All you have to do is to meditate, be objective to yourself, and try to stay in that condition. It's a very strange... You remember that first night you drove in a car and you felt the steering wheel, you see your hands on the... Ever have that happen to you sometime? You become conscious? At that moment you have a sort of state of cosmic consciousness. You somehow, for some reason, your consciousness drifted free from its prison of thought and feeling. And it was an odd moment of feeling kind of weird, like there's somebody inside you looking out through your eyes. Like your eyes were a television camera into planet Mars somewhere. And you were sitting in your armchair somewhere, looking through these little eyeballs. And your eyeballs weren't you, but you were looking through your eyeballs. And you could even look at your thoughts. In that condition, you can originate new thoughts. You can deal with the thoughts that arise from below. You can counteract them with the light from above. And you can just watch them without being angry. I see where this is coming from. I'm angry with my mother here. I'm angry with my wife. That's silly. It's my fault. Take fault back. And slowly but surely, just watching. I'll give you a good example. Shall I? I love this example. It's a bit crude. Are you ready for this? If you're under 16, please put your hands to your ears. But you know, when cows do their little thing? Well, which one? They drop the little cow patty. And it isn't very pleasant. But the sun shines on it, and it dries it up. It dries away the stink, right? And then it turns it into fine, beautiful earth. And out of this beautiful earth comes beautiful flowers. And the flowers absorb the energy of the manure, and then the manure is no more. That's exactly what will happen if you look at yourself. If you let the light in, the light doesn't come in unless you become objective. There are two places the consciousness can be. Down in the basement of your unconscious thinking, escaping, using addictive substances to produce that effect. But when you're ready to face truth, when you're really ready to be committed to become a good person, not a selfish person, to do what's right, stop making excuses, giving up pride and anger. When you're ready for that, when you've had enough of the old way of life, then you come out of the basement. I'll show you how. And you come up to the rarefied atmosphere. It's like two different laws involved. Let me be sort of graphic here for a minute. The airplane has a certain design, different from a boat. You recognize, you know, boats on land and an airplane's on land, and when you launch the boat in the water, you begin to appreciate what it was designed for. It's no good on land. It obeys the laws of the water, the boat does. The airplane's easy to understand, because the airplane taxis along the ground, and it's an earth creature. But as it gathers momentum and most speed, then the laws of the air begin to take over. And it leaves the ground, and this majestic thing takes up and soars over everything. It is no longer subject to the laws of the earth. Different controls. You see, it has different set of controls now. Now you can use those controls. It's the same thing when you become objective. As long as you're lost in the basement of your thoughts, you're subject to the laws of the earth. You're grounded. But the minute you become objective, you're subject to the laws of the air. Now, isn't that simple to understand? And you have to carry this. Do you see now? Listen to me. I'm fully aware of what I'm saying. And even as I speak to you right now, I don't know my next word. My next word is not thought out. I haven't read it, my little speech the night before. There's no planning for this meeting here this evening. It's coming out perfectly. Your life will come out perfectly. You don't have to scheme and plan and weigh one thing against the other. Because up there, you see, you're no longer subject to the laws of the ground. You're no longer blind. You can see everything, far off. Okay? So all I want you to do is to practice your meditation exercise, because all I want for you to do that is to learn to be objective, stay in this objective state, and in this objective state, keep this force shield around you, like the Starship Enterprise. Keep from being upset. Stay in it, because you have a lot of energy, a lot of power. Just like I showed you, you could stop smoking with that. You can keep being angry. The less angry you are, the less substances you need. You'll have found the truth that makes you free. Thank you very much for coming, and happy flying.